Welcome to Achrei Israel. In Parashat Achrei, we find a phrase so subtle it just might be overlooked, yet it holds the key to knowing when forgiveness has truly been granted. V'kisei anan hakatoret et hakaporet, in the cloud of incense shall cover the ark cover. The Midrash Tanchuma reveals when the cloud of incense rose directly upward, the Kohen Gadol knew without a doubt that the sins of Klal Yisrael were forgiven. Reb Simcha Banim Sofer, the son of the Katav Sofer and the grandson of the Hatam Sofer, explains this was not a mystical sign, it was a mirror. The Anana Katoret, the rising column of holy smoke, reflected the inner world of Am Yisrael, when the mitzvot they thought were pure, when their deeds were untainted, so to speak, by pride or calculation or gain, when their teshuvah was genuine and their hearts upright, the incense rose straight to Shemayim. But if there was even the slightest tilt, if the mitzvah was crooked, if there were strings attached, if the avodah became a performance, the cloud would tremble. Because only sincerity can rise clearly and only emet knows how to go straight. Which brings us to a story. One that doesn't describe the Ketoret, it lives it. Rabbi Spiro shares the story told by Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky in a Navi Shir in 1970 and later brought to light by Rav Feivel Schneider. It centers on Reb Tzvi Hirsch Rabinowitz. He was the son of the towering posek Rav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector. But Reb Tzvi, his greatness wasn't only in Torah, it was in Emunah, in Ahavat Yisrael, and in a soul that knew no bending. And as a young man, Reb Tzvi Hirsch began as a businessman. But as is often the case with those destined for greatness, his gashmiyut crumbled and his journey in ruchaniyut began. He entered the world of rabbanut and was once even considered for the post of chief rabbi of New York. The newspaper rejected him, however, not for lack of Torah, but because of his technical status as a single man in his financial hardship. But the reason he was single was sacred. Years earlier, his beloved wife had suffered a complete mental breakdown. Doctors declared her condition irreversible. She was placed in an institution, lo aleinu, and he was left alone. Rabbanim urged him to pursue a heter me'ad, the halachic path to remarry, and they told him it was 100% permissible and acceptable. But Reb Tzvi Hirsch refused, not because of legal doubt, but because of heart. Every day, he explained, I stand before Borei Olam and say the beracha of Rifa'enu. I daven for all the sick of Am Yisrael. I daven for my wife. But if I were to remarry, I would have to exclude her. If I continued praying for her and she was cured, then what? She would awaken one day to find out that I had moved on, that I married someone else. And then he said words that shake the soul. How can I stand before the Melech Malchei Hamlachim and say this tefillah is for all of the sick in Am Yisrael except my own wife? So for 30 years, 3 full decades, he remained alone, without companionship, without the comfort of marriage. And so that, in order that his tefillah could remain straight, unbroken, and complete, so that not even in prayer would he tilt the line. Only after she passed away did he remarry, and when his father was niftar, Reb Tzvi Hirsch ascended to lead Kovno with dignity, brilliance, and holiness. He left behind Torah, he left behind Psak, but above all, he left behind the legacy of Emet. Ladies and gentlemen, Shemayim doesn't weigh noise, it weighs verticality. It asks not how much have you done, but how straight did it rise. Because there are mitzvot, and then there are mitzvot done with clean hands, quiet hearts, and nobody watching. There are tefillot, and then there are tefillot whispered with broken hearts that still remember to pray for someone who may never know. And when such a mitzvah is offered, when a yid walks away from comfort, from honor, and from companionship, just to preserve the intensity of a prayer, then the Borei Olam leans close from the heavens. And this, he says, is avodah, that no malach can replicate. This is the incense, the ketoret that reaches me untouched. Because in a world forever tilted, where truth bends and clarity flickers, the neshama that walks upright, undaunted, unwavering, becomes a pillar of light that never dims and guides a nation forward with quiet, eternal brilliance. Achrei Israel. Shabbat Shalom u'Mivorach.